G'day, ladies and gentlemen and expats. Welcome to another episode of Expat Chat, episode 161. As we continue to wind out the year, I'm joined with my co-host, mate, friend, business partner, mentor, Brett Evans, who is the founding director for the Europe, Middle East, Africa region. Sorry, the managing director for the EMEA region and the founder of the Atlas Wealth Group. Good morning, Brett. How are you?
Mate, I'm well, thanks. I'm well. We survived the trek into work today through the fog. We had a cracking fog event this morning. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And g'day, folks, and welcome to the closing episodes of what has been a tumultuous and exciting and interesting kind of year. For the folks who don't recognise that silky smooth voice, that is Mr. James Ridley, who's the managing director for the APAC region. Mate, how's Oz treating you?
Mate, Oz is good. Oz is good. Weather's great. Starting to obviously be quite hot at the moment. We're in the thick of summer. Starting to feel that it's definitely holiday season. All the Christmas decorations are going up. Christmas trees going up in the households as well, which is always good. So it's getting to that point where a lot of professional services businesses are starting to think, is that a this year sort of problem that we want to solve, or is that a next year sort of problem
Yeah.
that we want to solve?
Is it
Um,
2025 James or 2026 James?
Yeah, and most of it right now is still 2025. I think if anyone's sort of signing out now, what are they
Get
doing?
chickens, yeah.
But yeah, that's right. But it's going well. But yeah, you're starting to feel that sort of festive season, sort of starting to ease into it, especially on the beautiful Gold Coast. But outside of that, not too much else. We've got a really exciting topic to talk about today, and left field in terms of a topic, but God, very topical back in Australia at the moment. It's copping a lot of attention.
Mate, don't you love how just niche we love to get? We're not generalists, we're not boring. We love to really get into that sort of nitty gritty. And folks, we're going to talk about R360, the new rugby tournament that's been launched around the world. For those folks out there who don't know what it is, essentially it's a competing competition to the general standardized rugby competitions around there, sort of like what Liv did with golf, but a rugby version.
Yeah.
However, we have been seeing a lot of commentary that refers to tax-free salaries and all sorts of stuff. And, there's been a lot of, like we always see with most expats in general, most expat conversations, I should say, in general, a lot of mistruths, a lot of BS, and we're going to set that record straight. But let's keep the compliance officers happy in the world and get the jingle out of the way. All the information we're going to talk to you good folks about today will be treated as informational and educational purposes only. Please do not construe this as personal advice. If you do need personal advice, speak to a specialist, speak to Atlas.
Absolutely, mate. What a great topic today. I know back in Australia, it's been all over the media, this R360. And I think the controversy that we're seeing on this side, and you're probably seeing a little bit as well, is around the main codes. So your rugby unions, your NRL coming out and saying, if any of our players switch to this league, they will not be eligible to play state of origin or represent the team or even welcome back within the league for as long as 10 years. So it's a huge ban, which means that pretty much sees them out throughout their professional career. So it is just a lifetime ban, I guess you could call it, because anyone that's playing NRL right now and who's 27 isn't coming back at 38 to come and play for one of the top teams.
Exactly.
Uh, so that's obviously how it's being framed, but they're offering some big money to be in this league. I think you and I were just talking about it before, but I think the last one I saw was up to £750,000 per season. So
Yeah.
Aussie dollars, that's as high that's as high as one and a half, just over 1.5 million Aussie, which
Yeah.
is huge.
Look, and that's the thing. It's, you know, I can see it's happened in the IP league, IPL league, sorry,
Mm.
in India. And it's been a
Yeah.
rite of passage for the Ricky Pontings and those sort of guys to go and top up the banks before they hang up the bat, for good. I think R360 is going to follow on the same route. You got to have, I think, two streams of people. You got to have the older guard who either have left a major NRL team in Australia or the UK,
Mm.
or are on the way out. You can see the writing on the wall. They're about to be changed over for a young punk, who will come in and take their guard. And also those who can't get in the NRL or the Super League in the UK. It's a second port. So I think the world's requirement for or appetite for sport doesn't go down.
Yep.
Sport is a massive business now, but we just want to sort of put a pin in some of the comments, about how rugby players from Australia can base themselves out of Dubai and have their family still living in Australia and be tax-free. Um, and I think let's overlay it with what are the tax rules right now and why that may or may not be the case.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, right now, R360, this is essentially what they're promoting to the players. They're saying that reports are indicating right now that they're offering 1.5 million per year, up to 3 million per season, and advertising it as tax-free to attract talent from the NRL and rugby union. The league is expected to base its payments in low or zero tax jurisdictions, so your Monacos, your Cayman Islands, your Dubai, which is why the term tax-free is being used. But what does that mean in reality for Australian players?
And that's the thing. It's, to me, it comes back to whether you're a someone pulling pints, someone playing rugby, a CEO. There is no exclusion from a contract. Your employer can't write in the contract, oh, this is tax-free. It's not up to them. You need to walk down to Martin Place and have a chat to the good folks there at the ATO. They're the ones who will work out whether it's tax-free or not. The only time that you can have a contract that is tax-free and tax exempt from an ATO point of view is when you work under either 23AG or 23F exemptions with respect to the Australian government. And that really is more so about you're working on an approved overseas project on behalf or with the Australian government. Mm. So last time I checked, R360, not so. And even the P&G one, that's going to be an issue on that P&G team. We're sort of seeing similar commentary at a P&G as well, saying that the players and the managers and everyone are going to be tax-free in P&G. If that P&G team is part of an Australian government, I know there's all those sort of projects that Australian government does with Papua New Guinea. So that might, you'd have to look at the devil in the detail. My first thought is no, unless it comes under a 23AF exemption. As an approved overseas project, because Australia is trying to get tight with the Papua New Guineans and kick the Chinese out. That's the only way I think you can expect to see that. But as far as someone moving to Dubai on a big wicket and getting tax-free income and having a family back in Australia, sorry guys, not how it works. And I think we need to spell out virtually what has to happen for them to be. You can have a tax-free income. That's not saying that, but you got to go through the hoops that all other Australian expats go through. And, I think it's cutting ties to Australia. So
that's
pure
right.
and simple.
And I think when you think about the practical application of our current Australian tax residency rules, cutting ties isn't just, it's not as easy as it sounds. Remember, a lot of mature NRL players these days have obviously a family, they have kids in schools. So in order to do this properly, it's picking up the family, moving over there permanently, ensuring that you are treated as a non-resident, you're establishing a new residence, say out of Dubai or the UAE, kids are in school, all those normal family and economic ties, which you would see of someone that's living there permanently. That's obviously treading very carefully. If you've got an old main residence, renting that out, all these little things that you're ticking off. But when we think about the practical application of that, most contracts for professional athletes, they do not last 3, 5, 7 years. They're usually very short term. It's usually like a 1-year contract. And then, it gets renewed at the end for another 1-year contract. So when I look at this, I'm like, how's that really going to play out for these kind of players? And I think there'll be a lot that won't be able to truly sever ties from Australia. And I think a lot will still be treated potentially as an Australian tax resident. And therefore they would need to seek advice. You could have a lot of players using this as a springboard to probably wind up their career over, say, a 5-year time frame. So as an example, they might move overseas to Dubai, play for R360, earn some good money for 1 or 2 years. Once maybe they're done, they maybe continue playing for some of those, I suppose, maybe Japan teams or the UK teams. Exactly right. And they've shown that they have really cut ties there from the Australian side. They're earning good money. They're seeing out the rest of their career. They're topping up the tanks. And then that way, when they come back, they've really squeezed as much juice out of the remainder of, I guess, their bodies and how
Mm,
much their bodies can hold up
yeah.
without getting injured. They've put their family maybe in a much better financial situation. And I mean, I would expect the players that might obviously come to call to these R360s, it might be a case where they're coming to the end of their career and maybe they're not going to get the call up to play for the Kangaroos, or they're not going to get the call up to play for, Queensland or New South Wales within the Origin, because those are the top dogs. These guys might be maybe has
Second
been
tier.
sort of towards the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, that's right. And I think they're still going to attract a good crowd, the R360s, because the way that they're designing the game is it's meant to be obviously quick, fast, fast hitting games. They're obviously going to have some of those, their own rules. Wouldn't surprise me if they've got a shot clock or a turnover clock, all those sort of things to keep the game moving and, obviously really building it up in terms of the hype. So it's going to be an interesting one. Severing those significant ties, both financially or economically and family, is just going to be the hardest thing for players to really try and, I guess, protect this potential tax-free income.
It's going to have to be a Columbus burning the boat, going to the Americas sort of approach. You need to sell your cars, your boats, all those sort of toys that everyone collects over the years, living on a good income, playing rugby in Australia. You can certainly keep property, no issue with that. But as you say, it's that process that all other Australian expats go through, as part of that process. You can take the approach of what a lot of the cricketers have done, playing the IPL for a bit, but I guarantee they're not going down the route of tax-free. They're back in Australia more often than they are in India. So to me, this is very different. You just got to be very careful in terms of when you read the literature, say tax-free income out of these countries, because it depends on who's receiving it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping these professional athletes, a lot of them are wise enough to engage professionals to get the right advice, and they don't just sign the dotted line and go, cool, tax-free income, I'm still just going to stay here for 6 to 7 months, because unfortunately
Yeah.
that's not how it'll play out. The ATO will come after you, and if you're earning 1 to 2 million a year, but you're spending a lot of that, and you're not putting away, a good amount for tax, you'll have a tax debt, and that tax debt is usually going to get walloped with general interest charges over the years, and you do see it. You do see a lot of professionals that don't have the best management in place when it comes to managing their financial affairs. They go broke really quickly.
Yep.
Um, their income or their lifestyle rises to that income level, and they just churn and burn to it rather than putting things in place, buying property, investing in shares, setting up the appropriate structures, all those sort of things. So that way they're really protecting those assets and building wealth for not just them, but their families.
Yep.
So it's going to be an interesting one to see how this plays out. Their target start date is really quickly, to be honest. They're meant to be green lighting this as soon as, and I'm just having a look online at a recent article. 2026 is when they want to kick it off. So, gosh, they've got to go on a pretty aggressive hiring spree in terms of shoring up their teams and their athletes if they want to kick this off
Most definitely.
as early as next year.
Look, that's the thing, and they're going to have to be aggressive, and just folks out there who are considering going down this pathway, use us, use someone with our experience. We don't care. Just don't fall into the trap, and we see this all the time. Do not fall into the trap of taking conflicted advice from the person offering the contract. They'll tell you what they want to tell you to get their signature, to get the team,
Yep.
because they've got to build all these teams very quickly.
Mm.
So they'll work it out later. Seek independent advice. I think you made a very good point about, the 2-year rule with respect to tax residency. If you only go on a 1-year contract and expect to come back to Australia, the ATO is going to say your departure is temporary and not permanent. And guess what? You'll get slugged with the tax bill. So you need to understand the moving parts. You need to understand from a chronological time frame point of view what you have to go through in order to make this work. Amazing opportunity. If I was half as talented and could earn that sort of money, I'd be tempted myself. It wouldn't be very good for any team, but why not have a crack? But as I said, make sure that going through this process is going to put you and or your family in the best financial situation, because I could see how this could go pear-shaped pretty easy.
Yeah, I think what I can see playing out, players get the call up, they abandon their Australian NRL dreams, they go over for 1 year, but then after 1 year, either something happens to the R360 league and doesn't get the traction, so it obviously disbands, but they've just earned $1 million and they're like, okay, well, if I come back to Australia, I've now got that 10-year ban on me, so I can't play for Queensland, I can't play for the Kangaroos. I can play maybe in the NRL if I've still got the itch, but now I'm going to have to fork out 47% tax on that income I've just received.
Yep.
And you might see a lot of these players pivoting, going, okay, I won't come home, but I'll go and play for one of the European teams for the next 2 to 3 years. So I keep my non-residency intact. I put a bit of stress maybe on the family, but it's just ensuring that you're saving, that
Yeah.
53% amount, 47% amount, I should say, on tax and just not coming home. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely going to need some advice. I wonder if there's a way in which they can receive the money through setting up an entity or anything like that, within Australia, like a company, and they consult out of it. They're a contractor or something. But unfortunately, a lot of that income would be personal services income as well, PSI. So it's like, okay, that doesn't really assist with tax planning. So you can
Yep.
see how complex this can get.
Yep.
So do seek advice if you're unsure.
Mate, I couldn't say it better myself. I think, amazing opportunity for guys out there. Just be careful. Give yourself a bit of time to consider. Give yourself a bit of time to do your research, because the last thing you want to do is go barreling in. And as you said, get hit with a 47% tax bill. Dubai is expensive enough as it is. You don't need an extra 47% on top of the tax rates there.
No, not at all. Not by any means.
So, but I think we'll leave it there. I thought it was a very pertinent little conversation. So for the folks out there, as Joe, our marketing communications manager, keeps reminding me, please like, subscribe, keep my job. She'll sack me if you don't get involved. So, she wants to see those numbers going up because she's putting a lot of effort into it. And
Mm.
like us, we live vicariously through those numbers. So the
Yep.
more numbers we see, the more other expats you help by getting the message out there. If you've got friends or family who are becoming expats or already expats, forward this to them. And mate, we'll catch you on the next week's episode.
Sounds great. Speak soon, guys. Thanks for tuning in on another best episode. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, James. See you, mate.